Google just dropped a Firebase update that lets any developer build AI features in their app without touching a single line of machine learning code. And honestly, this is one of those rare moments where a platform shift actually matters. Not hype, not marketing, real shift. So here's what happened. Firebase, Google's toolkit that millions of developers use to build mobile apps, just integrated Gemini, Google's AI model, directly into their platform. What that means in plain English is this. If you're building an app right now, you can now add AI features like text generation, image understanding, code suggestions, basically anything an AI can do, and you don't need to be an AI expert. You don't need to hire someone who understands neural networks or fine-tuning or any of that stuff. You literally just call a function. One line, maybe two. Before this, if you wanted AI in your app, you had two bad options. Option one, you built it yourself, which meant hiring machine learning engineers, setting up servers, training models, dealing with inference costs that would bankrupt you. Or option two, you called an external API like OpenAI or Anthropic, which meant your user's data leaves your app, goes to the cloud, and you're paying per request. Both options were expensive. Both had latency issues. Both were a headache. Firebase Gemini changes that game completely. The model runs on-device for some tasks, or uses Google's infrastructure for heavier ones. But the point is you're not building from scratch anymore. You're not managing servers. You're not hunting for the cheapest API. You're just using it, like you'd use a database or authentication. It's built in. Let me walk you through what developers can actually do with this right now. Text generation is the obvious one. Your app can write summaries, generate captions, answer user questions in real time. Image understanding means your app can look at a photo and describe it, extract text from it, identify objects. Code suggestions, which is wild for developer tools. Semantic search, which is way smarter than keyword search. Chat features that actually make sense instead of falling apart after two messages. But here's the part that's actually shocking developers: the pricing model. Firebase has always used a pay-as-you-go model, right? You pay for what you use. Gemini and Firebase is the same. But the per-request costs are genuinely cheap compared to OpenAI or Claude. We're talking like 1/100th of the price for similar tasks. That changes the math completely. It means a solo developer or a small team can now build AI features that would have been financially impossible 6 months ago. The second shock is latency. On-device inference means some of these tasks happen without leaving the user's phone. That's milliseconds, not seconds. Your app responds instantly. That's a user experience difference that's massive. People notice when their app is snappy versus when it hangs. Now, there's a legitimate question here. Doesn't this hurt OpenAI and Anthropic? Honestly, yes, probably, but not in the way you think. These companies are still going to dominate for high-end, specialized work. If you need a model fine-tuned to your exact use case, or you need the absolute best reasoning capability, you're still going to go to them. But for the 80% of apps that need general-purpose AI features, Firebase just cut them out of the equation. That's huge. The third thing that's wild about this is the barrier to entry. Before, building an AI-powered app required specific knowledge. You had to understand APIs, you had to understand rate limits, you had to understand prompt engineering. Now, you don't. The barrier is gone. That means more apps, faster. It means indie developers and small teams can compete with big companies on features that used to require massive resources. That's genuinely democratizing. But I want to be real with you about the trade-off. When you use Firebase Gemini, you're trusting Google's infrastructure. Your data flows through Google's servers. Google can see what you're doing with it, can use it to improve their models if their terms allow it. That's different from running everything on-device or using a privacy-focused provider. For some apps, that's fine. For apps handling sensitive data, that's a real consideration. You need to read the terms and understand what you're signing up for. Also, this is only the beginning. Firebase Gemini right now is pretty basic compared to what you can do with the raw Gemini API or with other models. It's built for common tasks, not for bleeding-edge stuff. But the trajectory is obvious. Google's going to keep adding capabilities. This is their play to make Firebase the default choice for AI-powered apps. And honestly, it might work. So what does this mean for the future? Expect a wave of new apps that have AI features because now it's easy enough and cheap enough to justify. Expect smaller teams to build things that used to require much larger budgets. Expect the bar for what counts as a competitive feature to rise. If your app doesn't have some kind of AI component in a year, it's going to feel behind, not because AI is magic, but because it's now just standard infrastructure. The bigger picture is this. We're watching the infrastructure layer of AI consolidate. A few years ago, AI felt like the Wild West. Everyone was experimenting, building custom solutions, figuring it out. Now it's becoming boring. Boring is good. Boring means it's becoming a utility. Utilities scale. And that's when real adoption happens. Firebase Gemini is not the flashiest announcement. It's not going to make headlines like GPT-5 or some new model breakthrough. But it might be more important because it's the thing that actually gets AI into the hands of regular developers and regular users. That's the shift that matters. If you're curious about how AI is actually changing the way we build software and what that means for the apps you use every day, subscribe. I break down these moments when the infrastructure shifts, and that's where the real story is, not in the model announcements, but in how they actually get deployed and used. Thanks for watching.